Dragon Emperor Sun Chapter 381 to Chapter 390. David was standing on the ring at this time, watching the fierce tiger that had transformed into internal energy pounce on him. His body was motionless, but the concentration technique in his Danshan had already been running wildly. At this time, David had a bold idea. The Ningxin art can refine everything, and can absorb all the spiritual power and energy of the victim into his body. But David can't always hunt around and absorb the energy of others for the sake of cultivation. Wouldn't that be a magic cultivator? Since it cannot be directly absorbed from others, can this released energy be absorbed by oneself? While thinking about it, David ran the concentrate heart technique, stretched out his hands, and directly resisted the ferocious tiger. David did not exert force. As long as David exerted a force, the fierce tiger that was transformed into energy would definitely be dissipated in an instant. The current David is just carrying this energy with his body, and the concentrated heart technique keeps turning far and wide, and begins to absorb this energy. The ring under David's feet began to crack, and the huge impact caused his legs to bend slightly. This David is still young, and he is definitely not Zhang Zhenzhong's opponent. Being able to persist until now, this young man really has some skills. Everyone was talking quietly. Sonia grabbed the corner of her clothes with both hands, her palms were full of sweat. Mr. Chen is going to lose, I'll save him. Qi Feng gritted his teeth and stood up vigorously. Even if he lost his life, Qi Feng would not see David in danger. Lin Tianhe pulled Qi Feng and said, "You can't help you with your current physical condition. Let's take a look first, Mr. Chen is not so easy to lose." Although Lin Tianhe said this, he was also very anxious in his heart. He began to resent his anxiety and hate himself for being so incompetent. When he was in Horindal, Lin Tianhe was the emperor of the underground, turning his hands into clouds and covering his hands into rain, so Lin Tianhe also neglected to practice the exercises. But when he got here, Lin Tianhe's heart was deeply shocked, and he began to regret that he didn't work hard. On the ring at this time, Zhang Zhengzhong glared at David. He was not attacking, but watched David resist his strength. "I will let you die slowly, let you die in fear," Zhang Zhengzhong said in a gloomy and cold voice. David ignored him. Instead, he ran the concentration technique, absorbing the energy around him. Because it was the first time, David was not very proficient, and there were many things that still needed to be explored. However, David can feel the energy around him being continuously sucked into his body, and then stored in his Danshan, but he can use it only after refining it. Slowly, the fierce tiger that was transformed into energy began to become weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared, and David also stood up straight, and his feet had already fallen deeply into the ring. "I didn't expect you to really have to." When Zhang Zhengzhong saw that David had nothing to do, he couldn't help being a little surprised. "What ability do you have? Even if you use it against me, your son's body is still lying on the ground, but don't let him resent your father under Jiuquan, no one will avenge him." David deliberately angered Zhang Zhengzhong, he wanted to drain all the energy from Zhang Zhengzhong. In such a situation, David is not good at directly taking action and sucking Zhang Zhengzhong into a dry place, so he can only use this method to anger Zhang Zhengzhong and let him release all his energy. Sure enough, David's words made Zhang Zhengzhong furious, and his body rose into the air. "Boy, you are too crazy." Zhang Zhengzhong, who was in the air, had a faint energy condensed around his body, and these energy all turned into sharp knives, and then raindrops fell towards David. When David saw this scene, not only did he not dodge, but he moved his body quickly and met a sharp blade that transformed his energy into energy. I saw that after those sharp blades touched David's body, they instantly turned into nothingness and disappeared without a trace. This. Zhang Zhenzhong's eyes suddenly widened, and his expression was very surprised. Everyone in the audience also exclaimed, and their eyes were full of inconceivable. They had never seen such a situation before. The energy emitted by the Master of Internal Energy was extremely powerful. How could it disappear instantly after touching the body? As if nothing happened? Could it be that David knows the golden bell, but not the iron shirt? Someone guessed. With this sentence, everyone's eyes turned to the people in the Iron Gate Pavilion not far away, because only the people in the Iron Gate Pavilion in the provincial capital could wear a golden bell and iron cloth shirt. The owner of the Shaman Pavilion saw everyone looking at him, his face was embarrassed, and he waved his hands again and again. The iron cloth shirt with the golden bell cover can't prevent the attack of the Master of Internal Strength. Everyone don't look at me. The owner of the Shaman Pavilion has been racing in his heart at this time. He even sought revenge from David 2 days ago. Now that he sees David's strength, he is really not even an ant in front of others. Is there anything else you can do? Feel free to use it. David looked at the shocked Zhang Zhengzhong and smiled coldly. Zhang Zhengzhong stared at David, but did not rush to take action. At the same time, in the Zhang family camp under the stage, the man with the hat finally raised his head and looked straight at David with a pair of eyes. David seemed to feel something, and turned his head to look, just to find the man with the hat looking at him. This time David finally saw the face of that man. It turned out to be an old man. David just glanced at it and didn't care, but said to Zhang Zhengzhong, "I killed your son, and I killed your daughter's family. Don't you want revenge? Come on, I'll stand in front of you." With David continued to provoke Zhang Zhengzhong, but Zhang Zhengzhong was not in a hurry this time, but looked at David with a slight wrinkle every day. Although Zhang Zhenzhong's strength has doubled after eating the burst pill, the energy in his body is not endless. If it continues to be consumed like this, in 2 more rounds, Zhang Zhengzhong is afraid that his energy will be exhausted and he will become a waiter. Lamb slaughtered. Seeing that Zhang Zhengzhong was not fooled, David snorted coldly, "Since you dare not take action, then I will come." After David finished speaking, his aura suddenly swept up like an explosion. In the entire venue, it was like a gust of wind swept through, and the tables and chairs were blown all over the place. The sturdy arena could no longer withstand it, and it began to collapse from David's feet. After the dust dissipated, David's body stood on top of the ruins, but his aura never diminished. The terrifying momentum made Zhang Zhengzhong have to radiate all his energy to resist. David's feet were suspended, and his whole body was wrapped in a faint mist, looking at Zhang Zhengzhong like a fairy. Zhang Zhenzhong's eyes were full of horror. He could feel his energy draining rapidly, as if being sucked away by someone. When Zhang Zhengzhong realized something was wrong, he wanted to withdraw his energy, but found that his body was almost collapsed, and all his energy was sucked away. "You, who are you?" Zhang Zhenzhong's eyes were filled with endless horror, and now he finally understood why David angered him again and again and let him take action. It turned out that David was absorbing his energy. In this way, why David slammed into those sharp blades transformed by energy can be explained. "I am the one who killed you." David looked at Zhang Zhengzhong indifferently, like he was looking at a dead man. "No, no, you can't kill me." Zhang Zhenzhong's face became extremely pale, and his body involuntarily retreated, but the ruins under his feet made Zhang Zhengzhong fall. After getting up, Zhang Zhengzhong continued to step back. His body was full of dust, and he was extremely embarrassed. This time, everyone was stunned, and they didn't understand why Zhang Zhengzhong became so embarrassed, and his expression was very frightened. None of them knew that the strength of Zhang Zhengzhong had already been absorbed by David, and now anyone who came up could kill Zhang Zhengzhong. "Give me a reason not to kill you," David asked coldly. Zhang Zhenzhong's eyes suddenly saw the man with the hat in the Zhang family camp under the stage, and his eyes suddenly brightened. "David, don't be mad, I'll find someone to clean you up immediately." After Zhang Zhengzhong finished speaking, he said respectfully to the person wearing the hat, "Please also ask Master Bohuo to take action and solve my Zhang family's distress. My Zhang family will definitely repay Master Bohuo, and I am willing to dedicate all the medicinal materials to Master Buhuo. At this time, Zhang Zhengzhong only wanted to save his life. As for refining the life-extending pill, those are not important. Now that his life is not guaranteed, what is the use of refining the life-extending pill? So Zhang Zhengzhong plans to use all the medicinal materials of the Zhang family. Master shot. Hearing Zhang Zhenzhong's mention of medicinal materials, David's eyes also brightened. He has now reached the 9th level of Qi training. He needs a lot of spiritual energy to break through to the foundation building stage. Happiness. Zhang Gong, are you telling the truth? Master Buhuo was secretly overjoyed. If he could get this batch of medicinal herbs into his own hands, his strength would be improved a lot. The problem is that these medicinal herbs can also allow him to refine aphrodisiac pills. Otherwise, if there are 2 little girls every day, he cannot bear. Master Buhuo, I, Zhang Zhengzhong, say nothing. How could I lie in front of so many people, let alone I dare not lie to Master Buhuo? Zhang Zhengzhong said humbly. That's true. Master Buhu took off his hat and slowly walked towards David. Who is this person? Look good. I don't know, shouldn't it be an expert invited by the Zhang family? Looking at the appearance of this immortal style, it must be very powerful. After everyone saw Master Buhuo, they whispered. Master Buhuo stood opposite David, glanced at David and said, Young man, you are very strong and talented. If you take me as your teacher, I promise that within 2 years, no one in Jiangbei province will be your opponent, and I guarantee that the Zhang family will no longer dare to trouble you. Master Doubt. Zhang Zhengzhong was slightly shocked and shouted with wide eyes. David is his enemy who kills his sons and daughters. How can he just let him go? Zhang Zhengzhong can't let David go. Shut up. Master Buhuo frowned and said sharply. Zhang Zhengzhong immediately closed his mouth. Although he was not convinced, he didn't dare to say anything at this time. Boy, have you thought about it? Be my apprentice, but a lot of people have no chance if their heads are crushed. Master Buhu looked at David and continued. If you want to be my master, you have to have real skills. Do you have any skills? David asked playfully. Since you're asking that, then I'll show you what it's really capable of. After Master Buhuo finished speaking, he suddenly took out a dark spherical object from his arms, and then suddenly fell on the ground. Bang! After a blast, the entire venue was instantly shrouded in smoke, and it was still billowing black smoke, and no one could be seen on the opposite side. This time, many people panicked, and some even started to run out, shoving and yelling one by one. However, soon the black fog disappeared, and everyone returned to quiet. However, when everyone was looking at the ring, everyone was stunned, because they saw that the ring that had collapsed was completely intact at this time, and David and Master Buhu were standing on the ring. Oh my god, isn't this an immortal method? This person is definitely not a martial artist. I didn't feel the energy from him, this old man must be an immortal. Where did the Zhang family find this kind of immortal help? I have to find it. Everyone in the audience exclaimed in amazement, such a scene has exceeded their imagination. Hearing the exclamations of everyone in the audience, Master Buhuo's face was full of pride. Young man, with this ability, can I be your master? Master Buhuo asked David. David smiled coldly, shook his head and said, I want real skills, not tricks. Although your illusions are powerful, you can't hide them from me. After David finished speaking, he waved his palm lightly, and saw a dazzling light of golden light. In the blink of an eye, when everyone looked at the ring, they were all dumbfounded. At this time, the arena returned to its just collapsed appearance again. David and that Master Buhuo were standing on top of the ruins. The back and forth changes made everyone stunned, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. At this moment, Master Buhuo's face began to look ugly, and his eyes narrowed slightly. I didn't expect you to be a fellow man. If that's the case, then I'll send you on your way. After Master Buhuo finished speaking, he instantly took out 8 black chess pieces, and then threw them out, but not towards David. 8 chess pieces landed, and 8 beams of light rose in an instant. These 8 beams of light enveloped David and Master Buhuo. No matter how high your technique is, you can't use it in my trap spirit formation. Master Buhuo said proudly. Really? David smiled coldly, but didn't say much. After seeing today's master doubt, he can also become a resource for his cultivation. Damn it, what is this? Is it an immortal method? This is a fighting method. It's too good. This is not a fairy method. This old man must be a fairy. This is not an immortal. This old man should be a warlock, and these are just spells. I heard that there are many warlocks in the southwestern provinces, and some warlocks raise some spirits or ghosts. Those who knew it began to explain it, otherwise they would all be shocked and have never seen the world. In the sleepy spirit formation at this time, Master Buhuo said to David again, I will give you one last chance. You are very talented. If you learn from me, you will definitely have a bright future. It should be the last chance I will give you. What treasures are still in your arms, take them out and give them to me, maybe I can spare you. David was able to feel the presence of a strong spiritual energy from the chest of Master Buhuo. Master Buhuo was startled, hurriedly tightened his clothes, and looked at David vigilantly. Boy, you dare to attack my treasure, be careful to die without a burial place. In the arms of Master Buhuo, but the 1,000-year-old ginseng sent by the Zhang family, this is a treasure, so Master Buhuo took it with him. Stop talking nonsense, let's go. David looked a little impatient. Okay. Master Buhuo shouted, and then his body disappeared directly into the spirit formation. When the figure appeared again, Master Buhuo had already appeared behind David. A palm slapped towards David's back. David sneered coldly, and clasped Master Buhuo's wrist with his backhand. Master Buhuo was startled, and his body disappeared again. Since you only know how to run, then I will break your formation and see how you can run. After David finished speaking, he suddenly grabbed a beam of light with one hand, and saw that the beam of light was directly sucked into David's body. The 8 beams of light were all absorbed by David, and even the chess pieces on the ground were crushed to pieces by David. Master Buhuo's figure appeared instantly, and then he looked at David in horror. You actually broke my sleepy spirit formation. Master Buhuo looked surprised. This method of breaking the formation, is it still broken? If you only have this ability, you still want to accept me as a disciple, it's a joke. David snorted coldly and said with a look of disdain. Boy, don't be mad. Master Buhuo was really irritated by David. I saw that he took out several black clay pots and placed them in front of his body. There were 5 in total, each of which was sealed with yellow paper. Seeing Master Buhuo take out these pots, David's eyes lit up, he had already guessed what was inside. It is really interesting to see this Master Buhuo, these are all things that can help David practice. At this time, Master Buhuo took out a spell, and between the fingers, the spell actually burned in his hand. Myriad ghosts eat my heart, open me up. The burning spell in Master Buhuo's hand was thrown away, and the spells on the 5 black clay pots were also burned, followed by the sound of resentful ghosts crying and wolf howling throughout the venue. This time, many people in the audience were so frightened that they shrank their bodies, and they all broke out in cold sweat. Sonia was so scared that her face was pale, and Chifeng hugged her into her arms. In an instant, the entire venue became dark, and from the 5 clay pots, ghosts began to fly out one by one, and they were very terrifying. Those who have not seen this scene are half scared to death, and some even fainted out of fear. Lin Tianhu stared at the ghosts closely, and he had no fear in his heart. After all, it was not the first time he had seen him. The ghosts surrounded Master Buhuo, and Master Buhuo looked at David, and found that David was actually calm, without the slightest panic, he couldn't help frowning. "You're not afraid at all. A mere kid, what's there to be afraid of, just do it." David sneered, hoping that Master Bohua would take action sooner. You must know that these ghosts are the best resources for David to practice. Master Bohua gritted his teeth. This is the end of the matter, and he can only fight. Go! Master Bohua directed the ghosts to charge towards David. These ghosts show their teeth and claws, as if they are going to tear David apart. David had a bit of a smile on his face, and after the ghost approached, he suddenly opened his mouth and took a breath. Some of the ghosts were caught off guard, all of them were sucked into the stomach by David, and the remaining ones fled in panic. How could David let go of such a good cultivation resource? I saw David's figure flashing, and the ghosts who escaped were caught one by one, and then all were eaten by David. Master Bohua was stupid, and his face became extremely ugly. This was his last trump card, and he secretly raised these ghosts. Swanya Valley has rules, and it is not allowed to raise these things. It is okay to raise some spirits. And everyone in the audience saw that David had eaten all the ghosts. Some people couldn't stand it anymore and vomited. After Sonia saw it, her heart was churning for a while, and she vomited out with a wow. She felt so disgusting. I was afraid that after this time, Sonia would leave a psychological shadow. If David wanted to make out with her in the future, it would be a little bit more difficult. Run! Master Bohua shouted loudly, and then his body instantly jumped back, and hurriedly ran outside. Master Bohua said this to the Zhang family, not because he kindly reminded the Zhang family, but he hoped that as soon as the Zhang family ran away, David would definitely go after the Zhang family, and he could escape. But who knew that David didn't take care of the Zhang family at all, but chased him directly. Zhang Zhengzhong saw that the master was beaten away, and he was about to run away with Jiang's family, and even Zhang Wenji's body was not needed. But just as the Zhang family was about to move, they saw Wu Liuyi directly lead people to surround the Zhang family. "Zhang Zhengzhong, don't even think about leaving either of you," Wu Lu said to Zhang Zhengzhong. "Wu Liuyi, what do you want to do? My Zhang family and your Wu family have no grievances, so what are you stopping me?" Zhang Zhengzhong asked Wu Liuyi angrily. "Zhang Zhengzhong, you killed Sun Yaobang, and it's so easy to escape now," Wu Liuyi said with a cold face. "You," Zhang Zhengzhong pointed at Wu Liuyi and was about to die of anger, but now that he has no power to hold back, he can't do anything with Wu Liuyi. "Zhang Zhengzhong, today is your day of death." Chifeng dragged his severely injured body, and the people with Chifeng Tang also surrounded Zhang Zhengzhong and the Zhang family. "Master, you go, I will lead someone to drag them," the housekeeper Lao Lu said to Zhang Zhengzhong. "Lao Lu, you have to pay more attention," Zhang Zhengzhong told the housekeeper, Lao Lu. The housekeeper Lao Lu nodded, and then shouted, "Kill!" In an instant, the Zhang family rushed out, and two Zhang family masters rushed out to protect Zhang Zhengzhong. Everyone in Chifengtang listens to the order, not a single Zhang family will be spared, let alone kill. Although Chifeng was injured, her voice was still sharp. As ordered. Everyone in Chifengtang roared angrily, picked up their weapons and fought against the Zhang family. "My Wu family is also here to help the place." After Wu Liuyi finished speaking, he waved his hand, and the Wu family immediately joined the battle group and launched an attack on the Zhang family. And Wu Liuyi himself stopped Zhang Zhengzhong and stood up with the two Zhang family masters who were covering Zhang Zhengzhong. For a time, the entire venue was full of mourning, and there were stumps and broken arms everywhere, and blood was flowing. The other clans were so frightened that they hid away one by one. These big clans were fighting each other, and these small clans should hide as far as possible to avoid being affected. Outside the venue, listening to the deafening screams and wailing in the venue, Gu Linger couldn't help but look at Li Shaoyi. "Master Li, we..." Without waiting for Gu Linger to finish, Li Shaoyi shook his head and said, "We are only responsible for the outside, and don't worry about the inside. After today, the entire provincial capital will be changed. Gulinger didn't say anything, but she could see that her eyes were full of anxiety. She was afraid that David and Sonia would be in danger inside. The fighting lasted for more than 10 minutes. Under the alliance of Chifengtang and the Wu family, the Zhang family was almost dead and wounded. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Zhang Zhenhong's face was full of grief and anger, but he had no choice, and his strength was exhausted. David sucked it away, and there is no way to recover it now. At this moment, David came back, holding the Master Buhuo in his hand. At this time, the Master Buhuo no longer looked like a fairy, like a lost dog, with his head down and his face full of horror. Looking at the corpses on the spot, David had already guessed what was going on, and threw the master bubble towards Zhang Zhengzhong and threw it directly at Zhang Zhenhong's feet. Looking at Master Buhuo's appearance, Zhang Zhengzhong knew that he was afraid that he would die today, and even the biggest support, Master Buhuo, was like this, so his fate can be imagined. Are you still running away? David looked at the dejected Master Buhuo and asked. No, I can't escape. As long as Master Chen lets me go, I am willing to follow Master Chen's left and right, and dedicate the 1000-year-old ginseng to Master Chen. Master Buhuo hurriedly shook his head. With your ability, do you still want to follow me? David snorted coldly, looked at Master Buhuo and said, I killed you, the 1000-year-old ginseng is still mine, why should I let you go? What's more, you don't know how many people have been killed by your sorcery. David said, raised his palm slightly, ready to wave down. You can't kill me, I'm from the Swanya Valley in the southwest. If you kill me, our valley master will definitely not let you go. Master Buhuo looked at David in horror and said. Threat me. David frowned, I hate threats from others the most. What else did Master Buhuo want to say, but David didn't give him a chance. After taking a picture, Master Buhuo died directly at the feet of Zhang Zhengzhong. David bent down and took out the 1000-year-old ginseng from Master Buhuo's chest, with a slight smile on his face. David put away the 1000-year-old ginseng and set his eyes on Zhang Zhengzhong. Zhang Zhengzhong felt David's gaze, and fell to the ground with a thud. The head of the Zhang family in the dignified provincial capital and one of the 4 directors of the Martial Arts Alliance, at this moment, actually knelt in front of a young man in his early 20s, with a servile appearance. Everyone looked at Zhang Zhengzhong with strange eyes. People in martial arts would rather die than give in, but at this moment, Zhang Zhengzhong actually knelt down in order to survive. But Zhang Zhengzhong doesn't care about other people's eyes at all, he only has one idea now, that is to survive. As long as you are alive, you can talk about everything, if everyone is dead, what is the use of integrity? I beg Mr. Chen to spare my life. I am willing to dedicate all the medicinal materials of the Zhang family to Mr. Chen, many of which are more than 100 years old. Zhang Zhengzhong begged David for mercy. I am the enemy who killed your daughter and son. If I spare you, wouldn't you find an opportunity to take revenge on me? David smiled coldly. No, absolutely not. My son and daughter offend Mr. Chen. They deserve to die. If I dare to take revenge on Mr. Chen, then I will have to die. Zhang Zhengzhong began to make a poisonous oath. In order to survive, he could do anything. David snorted coldly, this kind of person can even ignore his own son and daughter, how can he have credibility? Maybe if he is released today, he will seek revenge on himself tomorrow. Mr. Chen, you can't spare him. This Zhang Zhengzhong is ruthless. If he bypasses him, he will definitely take revenge. Qi Feng hurriedly persuaded David. I'm measured. David smiled slightly, then looked at Zhang Zhengzhong, if I were defeated in your hands, would you spare my life? Zhang Zhengzhong was stunned and looked at David in horror. He was about to say something when he saw David's big hand was about to fall. Wait a moment. Just when David was about to start, Li Xiaoyi suddenly rushed in and stopped David. Gulinger followed closely. After seeing that Sonia and David were all right, and the ground was full of the bodies of the Zhang family, Gu Linger's heart was a lot more settled. Master Li, why are you stopping me? David looked at Li Shaoyi suspiciously and asked. David, if you kill this Zhang Zhengzhong, his younger brother will not let you go. Maybe the entire provincial capital's martial arts alliance will suffer. Li Shaoyi said with a solemn expression. His younger brother. David frowned, not knowing who Zhang Zhenzhong's younger brother was. And when Wu Liuyi heard it, he was shocked and said, then Zhang Zhen died long ago. How could he still be alive? Zhang Zhen is not dead, and now he has become a coach in Kyoto, and his strength is very powerful. Li Shaoyi shook his head. This time, everyone was stunned, and seemed to understand who Li Shaoyi said about Zhang Zhen. Only David and the others were dumbfounded. Ha ha ha, you can't kill me. If you kill me, my brother will definitely avenge me, he will kill your whole family. Zhang Zhengzhong, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly jumped up and laughed wildly. Zhang Zhengzhong, don't be complacent. Back then, in order to be the head of the Zhang family, you forced your younger brother away and sent someone to kill him. Now even if he didn't die, it would be impossible to avenge you. It is estimated that he is now. I want to kill you. Wu Lu snorted coldly at Zhang Zhengzhong. He can kill me, but you can't. After all, we are brothers of a compatriot. If you kill me and destroy the entire Zhang family, my brother will definitely make you pay the price. Zhang Zhengzhong shouted proudly. In fact, he had just learned the news that his younger brother was still alive at this time, but being able to become the coach of the capital would definitely be powerful, and those cats and dogs in the provincial capital would definitely not take it seriously. Tiny. Looking at the proud Zhang Zhengzhong, David snorted coldly. With one palm shot, Zhang Zhenzhong's head instantly blossomed and fell directly to the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone was instantly silent, and Li Shaoyi's heart was even more mixed. Now that Zhang Zhengzhong is dead, the Zhang family will definitely be divided up. If Zhang Zhen is really found at that time, the provincial capital will probably set off a bloody storm. The teacher of Kyoto has the support of many big families in Kyoto. How many families want to invite Zhang Zhen as guest secretary? The reason why Li Shaoyi knows this news is because friends in Kyoto find Zhang Zhen's hometown in Jiangbei provincial capital after finding out. Li Shaoyi wanted Li Shaoyi to persuade Zhang Zhen in the name of his fellow villager. Because of this, Li Shaoyi knew that Zhang Zhen was not dead, and that he was living in the capital. Mr. Chen's strength, I admire Wu Liuyi, so I would like to take this opportunity to recommend Mr. Chen as the leader of my martial arts alliance. If Zhang Zhen really kills back to the provincial capital, we can also resist under the leadership of Mr. Chen. Wu Liuyi stepped forward and said respectfully to David. Yes, we agree with Mr. Chen as the leader. Mr. Chen is the leader of the alliance, I believe no one will object. Everyone followed suit. After all, David's strength is obvious to all. With such a powerful person in charge, the martial arts alliance in the provincial capital will definitely be able to create a name, and even rush out of the entire Jiangbei province. Looking at the crowd, David shook his head slightly and said, I have no interest in any alliance leader. If you don't dislike it, let Qi Feng do it. If there is something wrong with the alliance, I, David, will definitely help. Mr. Chen. Qi Feng was startled, he didn't expect David to make her the leader of the martial arts alliance. David waved his hand towards Qi Feng, and didn't tell her what to say. Let Qi Feng be the leader of the alliance. In fact, David just thought about it. In the future, as the training level gets higher and higher, the resources David needs will increase exponentially, so David needs people who can help him find resources. After Qi Feng became the leader of the martial arts alliance, he would definitely be able to help himself find resources better. I agree, now that Zhang Zhengzhong is dead, and Sun Yaobang has become a cripple, maybe he will die soon. Now the 4 directors are only me and Qi Feng. I think my strength is inferior to Chifeng, so I agree with Mr. Chen's suggestions. Wu Lihuyi was the first to loudly agree. Wu Lihuyi has said so, and the other family martial arts halls dare not have any objections, so they all agree, and Chifeng has become the leader of the martial arts alliance. After the meeting dispersed, Wu Lihuyi did not leave in a hurry, but walked up to David after there were few people. Mr. Chen, today is an eye-opener for this old man. If Mr. Chen doesn't give up, I hope there is time to guide me on this old man's tricks. Wu Lihuyi's attitude was extremely respectful, like a primary school student facing his teacher. Master Wu is polite, we can learn from each other, not to mention any guidance. David smiled slightly. Ha ha ha, it's okay to learn from each other. When the time comes, I invite Mr. Chen, and I hope not to let the old pigeons go. Wu Lihuyi laughed. No. David shook his head. Soon, Wu Lihuyi also left. Looking at Wu Lihuyi's back, David always felt that this person was very scheming, and it made people feel like they couldn't figure it out, but they couldn't say they were bad. After all, today's events, Wu Lihuyi helped David everywhere. David, what I said is true. You can do it yourself. If Zhang Zhen knew about it, he would definitely not give up. Li Xiaoyi said to David a little helplessly. The soldiers will block the water and cover the soil, there is nothing to worry about. David smiled slightly. When Li Xiaoyi saw this, he couldn't say anything else, so he could only take people away. David took Chifeng and Lin Tianhu and did not go back, but went straight to the Zhang family. Now that Zhang Zhengzhong is dead, all the Zhang family will become David's. Among the many families in the provincial capital, no one will follow David. Lin Tianhu was driving, David was in the co-pilot, Sonia and Gu Linger were behind him, and there were several cars following behind. Chifeng was the one who brought Chifeng Tang. David, what happened to the dirty things you just ate? On the way, Sonia couldn't help but ask David. Now Sonia thinks of David eating those ghosts, she still has goosebumps and wants to vomit constantly. What kind of dirty food did he eat? Gu Linger asked curiously. Sonia wanted to explain, but she didn't know how to explain it, so she could only stare at David, hoping that David could explain. David also remembered at this time, when he was devouring the ghost, he forgot that Sonia was there, and Sonia would definitely be disgusted when she saw this scene, maybe she would be scared when she saw it. Where is the dirty thing? It's just the illusion technique used by the warlock. Do you really believe that there are ghosts in this world? David pretended to explain, look at me, I don't have anything in my hand, and I can turn you into a ghost right away. David said, a white mist appeared on the palm of his hand, and soon a ghost's head was held in David's hands, which shocked both Sonia and Gu Linger. David opened his mouth and sucked the ghost's head into his mouth. In fact, these were all transformed by David with aura, but the ghosts released by Master Buhua were all real. See it or not, it's all fake, I'm turning a dagger out for you. David continued to explain, and soon there was a dagger in his hand. David sucked it hard, and also sucked the dagger into his mouth. These are all transformed from strength. You are not a martial artist, so you don't know. I see. Gu Linger seemed to understand, so she explained to Sonia, Sonia, you are not a martial artist, you don't understand this, the real master of internal energy can control chi and transform into shape, so you can do whatever you want. The illusion of various objects is actually fake. Gu Linger said this, Sonia's originally confused face had a bit of confidence, and nodded, oh, it turned out to be fake. Seeing that Sonia believed, David secretly wiped his cold sweat, otherwise he really didn't know how to explain it to Sonia. It seems that things are too magical to be seen by Sonia in the future. Lin Tianhu, who was driving, smiled secretly. If Sonia, who David couldn't explain today, believed it to be true, I was afraid that the two would want to make out in the future, then Sonia would have a grudge in her heart. What are you laughing at? Drive well. David glared at Lin Tianhu. The group soon arrived at the Jiang's villa. At this time, there was no one in the entire Jiang's villa. It seems that the rest of the people already knew the news of Zhang Zhenhong's tragic death, and they all ran away without a trace. After getting off the car, Chi Feng looked at the Zhang family's luxurious villa and said to David, "Mr. Chen, you just don't have a residence in the provincial capital, and this villa can be used as Mr. Chen's accommodation." David nodded and didn't refuse. After all, he couldn't live in Gulinger's house all the time, and now that Sonia is here, it's even more impossible for David to live with Gulinger. Seeing David, Gulinger nodded in agreement. For some unknown reason, she felt a little disappointed in her heart, but she quickly adjusted herself and warned herself fiercely in her heart, "David is your best friend's man, Gulinger. You have to take care of yourself." Walking into the villa, looking at the luxurious decoration and those antiques, one can imagine how extravagant Zhang Zhenhong's life is. David, Sonia, and Gulinger sat and chatted in the living room, waiting for Chi Feng to search the entire Zhang family. But not long after, a person from Chi Feng Tang rushed over, "Mr. Chen, Hall Master, please come over." Seeing the anxious look of the people in Chi Feng Tang, David stood up suddenly. "What happened?" "I don't know either." The people from Chi Feng Tang replied. David followed the people from Chi Feng Tang, and Sonia and Gulinger were curious and also followed. When they came to a remote courtyard of the villa, they saw that Chi Feng and Lin Tianhu were leading people around the courtyard, with anger in their eyes. "Chi Feng, what's wrong?" David asked Chi Feng. "Mr. Chen, take a look for yourself." Chi Feng said all the way to a room in the courtyard. David looked into the house and found that there were more than a dozen girls locked in it. These girls saw David and the others, all of them were horrified, and they curled up together, obviously frightened. "What the H3LL is going on?" David's brows furrowed tightly. "Mr. Chen, I just asked, these girls were all arrested by Zhang Zhenghong, the oldest is only 18 years old. Why did Zhang Zhenghong arrest so many girls?" David was puzzled. Even if Zhang Zhenghong had a big haircut, he didn't need so many girls. These girls don't know why they were arrested, but Zhang Zhenghong will send people to select 2 girls every day, and send them away after grooming. After the girls are sent away, they never come back. I suspect that all those girls have been caught. Chi Feng's eyes were full of anger. Also as a woman, Chi Feng was very sympathetic to these girls, as well as Sonia and Gulinger. When they saw these girls being locked up, they were so frightened that they gritted their teeth in anger. David's brows were tightly knit together, and Chi Feng's unforeseen words made his heart twitch. "Send someone to take care of these girls and send them home one by one, you all come with me." After David finished speaking, he walked out of the room. Standing in the yard, David closed his eyes slightly, chanting words in his mouth, and suddenly his hands swiped in front of his eyes. When David opened his eyes again, there was a slight red light in his eyes. David glanced around the villa, and finally looked at a place not far from the southwest. In David's eyes, he saw billowing black smoke billowing from that place, and then condensed into a black cloud in mid-air, and it didn't disappear for a long time. So much resentment. David retracted his gaze. His face became extremely ugly. A brisk pace rushed. David went straight to the southwest direction. Chi Feng and the others saw this and followed closely behind. After running for about 3 or 4 miles, David stopped on a small dirt bag and saw that there was freshly turned dirt everywhere. David glanced, and suddenly found an earring in the soil, and found another earring in such a place, which made David's face gloomy to the extreme.